and welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where it's my absolute delight to be joined by the fabulous Susanne Biro. Susanne, welcome.
No, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm so looking forward to this conversation, Suzanne. And as we know from the green room just a minute ago, we could get stuck in quite quickly. So before we do, let me just share a little bit more about you with our audience. So Suzanne has spent over 2 decades as the confidant to CEOs and C-suite executives, helping them confront what she calls deep fear, the anxious thoughts that secretly limit even the most accomplished leaders. A TEDx speaker and the author of This Could Be Everything for anyone who wants to make their tomorrow better than today. She transforms these hidden anxieties into a catalyst for authentic leadership through her signature inner life leadership approach. With over 24 years of global experience coaching over 200 CEOs and thousands of senior leaders, Suzanne specializes in emotional intelligence, leadership effectiveness, and whole life success. She understands that leadership at the highest level is demanding, exhausting, very often lonely. Through her signature approach, Inner Life Leadership, she helps leaders harness the power of self awareness because what happens inside always shapes what happens out there. I mean, Suzanne, there's so much in there, both that resonates and that I'd love to unpick. But before we get started, could you bring your story to life for us, please?
Well, first of all, thank you. What a gracious and well said opening. It made me feel exhausted listening to. I mean, I've been doing this for 25 years. I feel like I've had the honor of spending my days listening to the inner thoughts, concerns, aspirations, challenges of literally thousands of some of the most successful men and women around the world. Um, and it's work I absolutely love. Very successful people very often have few people they can speak to freely because of the responsibilities and the visibility and the demands of the job and legalities. And so it's really just an honor to be a witness to these men and women who are blood, sweat, and tears working to make the world better. There's so many great leaders out there. When I get scared at listening to world events, um, I have this other side and this intimate knowledge of how many good people, men and women, are working tirelessly to make the world better on just about every front. And they're doing it with grace and with kindness and with love. And, so it gives me hope for the world.
Oh, I love that. And that it so resonates because I think, both having been, a C-suite leader and now working with them, it's, as they say, it's lonely at the top. It's certainly not quiet. Everyone's vying for a piece of you, and where do you go for that support, for that peace, for that space within which to think? Because we don't always think just internally. We do some of our best thinking outwardly, don't we? We say it out loud and all of a sudden hear it for ourselves and go, I got that. Heard that.
Yes.
I heard that for myself. And so doing the kind of work that you do, creating that psychologically safe space for people to be able to examine their thinking, to sit with it, to work it through without needing to perform, without needing to come up with an answer is invaluable, isn't it? In those spaces of high demand, high pressure, high performance that needs an opportunity to recoup. Would that be fair?
I feel like exactly as you said, very few people see these people as human beings with their own needs. They're in many ways famous to an extent, and sometimes literally quite famous. And so everyone is wanting a piece of them. And so where do they go where they can feel like a peer, where they can feel like a human being?
Yeah.
And unfiltered have any level of conversation of what's occurring to them, what's concerning them, what's bothering them, both personally and professionally. I think it's really invaluable. I mean, there's a wonderful book called Trillion Dollar Coach by Eric Schmidt and some colleagues, Eric, who runs Alphabet, the Google parent company. And it profiles Bill Campbell, the life of Bill Campbell, who was a coach to Silicon Valley giants. and he would walk with Steve Jobs every Sunday, simply so that Steve Jobs could hear himself think,
Yeah, yeah,
with a thinking partner. And you're absolutely right. There's one thing, I think we roll thoughts around in our mind, but we never really advance them. Some of them are unconscious, subconscious, but we never really have the time to do so. The act of either writing it on paper, which is why journaling is so powerful, or speaking it to another makes it real in
yeah,
a way that it doesn't stay real. And so we advance ourselves, and we can do this writing on paper, speaking to someone we trust immensely, because we hear ourselves say something we didn't know we already knew. And
yeah,
then like just like you said, oh, I just got that.
yeah.
And so there's real value in having a thinking partner of any kind.
That does so resonate because I know for me certainly both with the people I work with and from my own personal experience that there were times when journaling could really help me and I'm a big advocate of journaling. I do a lot of it, but there was still something that couldn't quite beat saying it out loud to another human being I trusted, because sometimes just in hearing it external to me, instead of even journaling, I'm still hearing it in my voice in my head, used to really catalyze the idea either as a really bad one, like, you don't need to help me. I understand for myself that that's not helpful, or as the start of something amazing. And
Yeah.
that the powerful combination of being able to have both, of being able to journal because you can't always have somebody with you, but also have that dedicated time to be able to just be creative, to just think. And I think for me, it's to be seen without being seen. And what I mean by that, because that was really inarticulate, is those leaders that are in those big spaces where everybody knows them, where they're famous or infamous, irrelevant of where they sit, is they are seen. Everybody watches what they're doing. Everybody knows what they think is
But it's
going
kind of
on.
being alone in a crowd.
Yeah, but it's they're not seen. The inner part of them is missed in that persona, in that image. And I think there's something so invaluable, isn't there, about having that space where you can just genuinely be seen for you in your thinking. And given the love, I've got a good friend who always says, the true act of listening is an act of love, because we
Mhm.
very rarely listen to just listen. We as human beings listen to interject, we listen to make our point, we listen to prove you wrong. But when somebody listens to us just to listen, we grow, don't we?
Well, I feel like it's the act of witnessing
Yes.
another human being in their journey. I worked with a leader years ago, and it was like 11 p.m. his time, and it was a charity focused on children, and he had all these country leaders around the world he was responsible for, and he just sat back and said the vastness of the problem is so great. You know, I just want someone to witness what I'm up against, and to sit with me in, the tears of like what is actually happening to these children if we don't get this right. And we're only making a small dent. And just another human being to witness all that we carry. I think it's invaluable. I don't know about you, but I have with the advent of AI and all kinds of tools, a lot of clients are using, say, ChatGPT or whichever one they select, and having conversations with them, as they would a coach or a therapist. And I think that's wonderful because in many ways it will democratize personal awareness and development and learning and tools and leadership capability. And I can't imagine a world yet, but it might come, where we won't, we still want to be witnessed, and we need another human being to do that. So although we have all these tools and access to them, it won't replace what you and I can do, because it's just there's nothing understands a human being better than a human being.
That is so eloquently put because I think, there's so many fears around the world, isn't there, about what AI is going to do next, and fear of the fact it's going to take our jobs or change our jobs. And for me, yeah, I think it's an amazing tool. I use it all the time, but it is an augmentation of what I do. It allows me to do things that I don't enjoy doing faster and
Mm.
more effective than if I had to do them. But it's only as good as what I put in. And if I put rubbish in, I'll get rubbish out. It's like, and I'm old enough to have been here before the internet. And that was the last time we thought the world was ending and there was going to be nothing left for us. And we've subsequently proven it is an augmentation. It allows us to be better, to go faster, to move quicker, but it doesn't make up for our humanness, our ability to connect, our ability to understand the nuances that you only get if you are present with somebody, because it's not just what they say, it's what they don't say. It's
Yeah.
it's all the other triggers that we get from human beings, whether it's their body language, whether it's their micro expressions, whether it's sometimes the words that we use trip us up. And
Yes. Well, and I think human relationships are the only thing we really care about. I mean, if AI does take the majority of jobs, what will remain is what we will care about is our human relationship and how we spend our leisure time.
yeah, yeah,
And in order to do that, we still have to do our work. Because if we don't do our work, everything from our personal history gets in the way of, and relationships are confusing and they're challenging, and we don't understand what's happening sometimes, and they can be very painful.
yeah,
When we start to develop ourselves and recognize what's happening within us, and we learn some communication skills with ourselves so that we can then effectively communicate with care and intention, um, you know, then we can create incredible relationships with other people, which is the only thing we really care about. I mean, we everything we care about is requires other people.
yeah,
Our family, our relationships. If we want to travel the world and meet and see new people and places, we care about how we interact with other people. And so that may be our humanity is the one thing that AI can't take over.
yeah. Well, yeah, because it's never gonna, no matter how well we train it, it's never going to feel the way that we feel, the way that it stings if you have a disagreement with somebody that you care about, whether or not you dwell on that for a long period while you try and work out how you navigate a way back to commonality, to a way forward, to moving those through. And the things that we treasure most are the memories we create that meant something, that made us feel something, more so than anything else. And I think that that's where we're seeing more volume coming up. But as leaders in the current climate, there's there's an additional challenge, isn't there? It's like, how do we help lead people with safety, with care, with love, with kindness, to navigate this ever-changing world and to find their place, because the definition of our place keeps evolving as the world keeps evolving. And when it's already this busy, having somebody that you can spend some time with that can witness what you're doing, but that can also give you that safe space to consider what next? What does this now mean for me? Where does this now go? What else what other lessons am I here to learn? What other evolutions am I supposed to still be transitioning through to allow me to continue to be the best that I can be? Um,
Yeah, and then I mean, in the realm that I operate is, how can I pay attention to where my team is, my people are? What do they need? Where are they in the change process? Where am I in the change process? How do I manage myself? And how do I lead my team? Because I may be in sort of shock and denial, or resistance of changes we need to make. But I still need to lead my team effectively.
yeah,
And it's my job to lead them well and to communicate what we know, what we don't know, focus them well so that they can do the work of their lives. And so we're really juggling those two things now more than ever. And I think that's a really tall order. I need to know, I'm grappling with all the information and the changes coming at me, but I need to be just like a parent for a family system. I need to be a strong front
Yeah.
that's as authentic as I can be to focus them well. What do they need to know? Just like parents to children, where are they at right now and what do they need to know so that they can focus today and do exceptional work. And I need to communicate that early and often, and be that consistent presence for them. And so we're really asking a lot of leaders now. I think a lot of us are feeling overwhelmed with the shifting priorities that are coming and the amount of information that comes at each of us. And so really helping clients focus, what is this year? What are the priorities for this year? How do you need to manage yourself? And how can you most effectively communicate, coach, and develop and manage the team's focus?
I love that. I love your analogy as well about that kind of almost that parent element because when I was back in C-suite, I worked for public listed companies and therefore you had to lead people, you had to make sure that you communicated with them often, but equally you were stuck under the insider trading laws of not being able to share too much too soon for fear of putting them at risk and having to keep stuff back. So you shared really big stuff with the market before you shared it with your people. And that was an additional challenge, a little bit like a parent. Is that how do you share age appropriate stuff?
Yes,
Allows you to,
it's very analogous.
yeah,
You're sharing age appropriate, right? And we understand what is sort of legally appropriate or what will be too much that's not needed. It'll just distract them. And they want to know what do they need to know to do exceptional
yeah,
work, today, this quarter, and give them that and nothing else. And, communicate, hey, here's what we know, here's what we don't know. But this information is coming. I'll give you more as we have it. We'll meet every single Friday. And right now, this week or this quarter, we're focused on this.
yeah.
It's so clear and it calms everyone down in a sea of like so much noise. Okay, I know what we're doing and I know what I need to do and I know where we're going.
And that's a great analogy, but it's so hard to stick with that, isn't it? Because you end up with that child that's like, but why won't you tell me? So I remember working in one organization and and I was COO, so I had to be really careful. And I even had people from compliance, like the senior chief compliance guy going, but Kim, you can tell me. And I'm like, I can't. It's
Mm.
insider trading. I can't.
Yes. Yeah, it's called, yeah.
I'm doing this to
I
keep
might
you.
be in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might be in jail. If I tell you, not only will I be in jail because I've messed up, you'll be in jail because I've messed up. So there's that element, and it strikes me with my own little girl that sometimes she's like, "But mummy, you know more," and I'm like, "Mm-hmm." And when it's appropriate to tell you, I will tell you. But right now, you've just got to trust that I'm giving you everything you need to know. I'm not holding anything back that you should be aware of. But I'm keeping you safe because that's my job is to keep you safe within the legalities, within the regulations within which we operate. And I think for many leaders that insurance that you're working with, they carry that additional challenge as well, don't they? Which is they've got to navigate that sphere, which is I want to tell you, you need to know what the direction is, but I also need you to trust me that if there's things I can't tell you, I'll tell you when you need to know. I'll tell you when it's safe for you to know. And that brings with it an additional stress, doesn't it, for the leader involved?
Yeah, I think many of them are, I mean, many that I work with are very sophisticated, effective leaders and have been doing it for years. I think the piece that does weigh heavily is, knowing, for example, that they're going to downsize, and but it's not going to happen right now, and so acting, keeping the status quo, even though you know what's coming,
Yeah,
and that people that you love dearly that are doing exceptional work and giving their blood, sweat, and tears are going to be moved on. That I always take that as a sign of incredible integrity and business is business.
yeah,
And so, but I love that leaders, that bothers leaders. I'm always a little concerned when it doesn't.
yeah.
It should concern us because we are responsible for the livelihoods of others, and that's an incredible, awesome responsibility. But I'd say almost everyone I work with, it weighs heavily on them. there's nothing that can be done about that. That is part of what it means to lead at a high level. But it is very useful to just acknowledge it and
Yeah.
to acknowledge how much they care, and for them to see that heaviness that they carry is a sign of their integrity and how much they actually value other people.
No, it's so true because is one of the hardest jobs to do as a leader is to lead a downsize, to lead something like that. And if it doesn't bother you, probably shouldn't be a leader. The fact that it does bother you, but you still step into it and do it with care and with courage and with as much grace for the individuals impacted as you can possibly manage, to your point, speaks volumes to who you are as a leader and how you are as a leader.
And I think really thoughtful communication and a communication rollout. Everyone's so busy, and it takes just a little bit of extra time to really think through how do we want to roll this out. When it's done well, people understand, and I think it enhances our brand and our organization, and it keeps relationships intact. When it's haphazardly done, or just not enough thought or care has gone into it, it's like, oh man, you did so much damage that you didn't need to, that just a simple communication could
Yeah.
have alleviated. And so it really can be very, very costly when it's not done well, and it doesn't require a lot of additional time to just make sure that communication channel and the unfolding of it is done as you would expect and want yourself. And
Yeah.
so that's where I think the work that you and I do comes in, is that I feel like we pull clients out of the day to day, to let's look at and have you think about what's coming up, what's ahead, how do you want to handle it, so you can hear yourself think, so you can go, yes, I really need to get with the communications department, or I need to have a pre-conversation with so and so,
Yeah.
because these instincts come to us if we have the time to actually hear ourselves. But we're running so fast that we can't even hear ourselves. Then we go act out there and we make all kinds of work for ourselves.
It's so true, and I think in most things, communication is always king, isn't it? It's like we have to get it right, we have to think it through. And I know when I did my big transformations, communication was the key thing. It was like, actually, you've got to deliver an awful message, and it was the right thing to do, and it was the right business decision. And I was the one that took it to the board to get agreement on it. But then the minute you've got to do that, you then have to think about every single person you're going to stand in front of and say this to is somebody's mother or father or brother or sister or daughter or son. So if they were my family, how would I want them to be treated in this moment? I can't stop the moment. I can't take it away. I can't make it not happen, but I can make sure I make it as painless and undamaging an experience as I possibly can do. I can make sure I'm doing it with grace and respect for them as people. And to your point, Suzanne, we only get there if we do it consciously, if we're given the time to think about that element, if we're able to go, okay, so how am I going to navigate this? So yeah, why do you think authentic communication is so hard in leadership and personal life? We know it's important, we know it's what we should be doing, and yet it sometimes isn't the thing we give the most focus on.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a good question. In the book, I offer a tool called the self-inquiry tool, or SIT for short. I think we're not taught or aware enough of what is happening within us. Like, most of us have had the experience where we have a conversation, we go away, and then we think, oh, I wish I would have said this. I didn't grab onto that. Why didn't I, handle it this way? And we couldn't hear ourselves enough in the moment. I feel like we can speed up that process within ourselves to go, I might be in a big board meeting. Someone says something and it feels like they threw me under the bus, is how I'm interpreting it. And all of a sudden I'm defensive in how I respond. Without any awareness, I will be defensive. The whole room will see me be defensive. If I do that often enough, they'll say, God, Suzanne, she's so defensive all the time of her business unit. She forgets to see, the bigger picture. What I want to do is be able to lead and manage myself, at my highest. And so someone says something, I can notice instantaneously, wow. I have a saying for myself when something happens, ouch, that hurt, because I can feel the initial hit of it. And it's like, either I feel like I've been, thrown under the bus, or, something isn't going the way that I wanted it to, or it's bad news, and I'll just go, ouch. So I acknowledge, oh, this is kind of how am I feeling? I feel like not great. And then I will sometimes bring that into the conversation to say, well, I'm noticing myself feel a little bit defensive, at that comment, but I understand where you're coming from. Let me see if I can communicate clearly back as to why we handled it that way, or, why I think we need to proceed with this. And it feels then authentic, because it is authentic. I am getting defensive, and yet I don't want to communicate from that place. So, the sit tool is, what am I thinking? Something happens. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Based on my thoughts and my feelings, how am I likely to respond? And then what will be the impact of that behavior? And is that useful? Will that serve me? Will that serve the task at hand? Will it serve the environment or the people that I'm working with? And so it's just a way for us to start to really pay attention to what's happening within me. And, as we do this, I think we get wise to ourselves. It's like,
Yeah.
and then I can go, oh, there's, people just sort of pressed my button. Okay, let me put that aside and see if I can remain present to what is needed to move the relationship and or the business forward well.
That it so resonates. One of the things that I've kind of learned over the years is, neuroscientifically proven our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. So if something happens and we make it mean something, and what same thing will happen, but what I make it mean could be very different to what you make it mean, and that could lead to conflict. And so one of the questions that constantly goes through my head, but I love the sit model, is what's happening and what am I making it mean? Because it catches me in those moments where I've gone over here to a big emotional response
Yeah.
to something, when in reality, this is what's happened over here.
Yes.
Um, and also, the way you did it was so eloquently, allowing yourself to step outside of that, to either name it or to take a step away. I've said before now in meetings, do you know what? I'm going to need to take a pause, because right now I'm struggling to find a response I'm going to be proud of. So I just need a moment to deal with that. And then I can come back and address what's going on. But I know for myself, sometimes I just need to give myself space, just a little bit of distance to be able to self-regulate. And I guess a lot of that comes from what both you and I have probably done a lot of because of the work that we do, is that self-awareness, is cultivating that, knowing what's going on with us and not being afraid to call that out and going, might not be the best, but this is where I am right now. So give me a moment and this is where we're going to get. Why did you decide to start helping people to cultivate that self-awareness? What was your trigger?
Oh, it's such a great question. Why? Gosh, I'll have to go so far back. I've always, ever since I was young, I've always been really keenly, I mean, even in elementary school, keenly aware of how people felt. I'd watch an interaction and I'd see this person make a joke with the intent to sort of um, hurt this other person, but not in a way that you could pinpoint it. And then I'd watch this person being hurt, and then I try to sort of go and rescue that person and make them feel okay. And so I've just been really keenly aware. What matters to me most is how people feel, because how people feel is how they then behave. We know this. People forget what you did, they forget what you said, they'll never forget how you made them feel. All buying decisions, 95% or whatever the research is, are based on feelings. We know this because we advertise a car to be sexy because it's a feeling. What feeling will you have when you buy that car, or that piece of clothing? We There's a book called I'm going to forget the name. It doesn't matter. But it essentially is, it's neurologically impossible for a human being to make a purely logical decision. We like to believe that we do, but we make a feeling decision. and then we back it up with logic,
Yeah, yeah.
because that's the way the human structure, the brain is structured. We have to go through the emotional channel of our brain. So nothing matters more than how we feel and how we make other people feel. And we know this when we network. Like, who do you pick up? You pick up the phone of someone that you know you're going to get a warm response from, and you like relationships with certain people because of how they make you feel. And still today, it might change in the near future with AI, but still, business is filled with people, and how business gets done is through human relationships.
It's
And so I'm not sure anything could matter more. And it's, I guess, back to your question, where did I start? I don't know. It's just always been my orientation of, I notice how people feel. I notice a lot of people hurting. And I just want them to feel better than they do and enjoy this one precious life that they have. And what I know is that when people feel well inside, they have capacity and attention for other people. They can be present, they can be encouraging, they can be generous. They more effectively coach and develop their team members when they feel well, because they feel like they have something to give away. So when we feel really good, we're really good for other people.
oh, yeah, that so resonates. I see it so much because when we feel good, our energy shifts. And we all know, don't we, when we're in the presence of somebody who's got good energy, you can't
Yeah,
help but
yeah.
walk away from that and go, "Oh, I feel uplifted." Just
Oh,
like,
I love that. I know. I love that person. The room just shifted. It
yeah,
felt fantastic.
that's it. I really
We
do.
also know too when someone walks
Uh,
into a boardroom and it is not that, it's like, oh, someone just sucked all the fun out of, you know, uh, yeah.
Yeah, as I often say to my friends, that person has got a problem for every solution. The person that
Yeah.
sucks the energy out, you're like,
Yeah.
no matter what solution you've got, they're going to find a problem for it. And we gravitate towards people that make us feel energized, and we move away from people that don't. But once we understand that, and I guess for me, that is the part about cultivating self-awareness, we can see how much of our time we spend in being the energy giver and how much of our time we end up being the energy zapper. And that helps us, doesn't it, to identify where's our route to being the best us that we can be.
Yeah. 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 And one of the things I cover too is, first things first, it's take care of ourselves. I heard you share a little bit of this on one of your other recordings, as far as put your mask on first. I call it, what are your daily disciplines? Like, what are the small but important things you need to do every day, simply so that you feel like you have something to give other people? And to the extent that we know what those are, and more often than not, we try to live those things and give ourselves those things, the more we have capacity to pay attention to our family, our team, so we can enter the organization every day going, who needs me? Like, where are my people? What do they need? How can I best support them in doing the work of their lives today? And we have that to give away, but we need to take care of ourselves. And what is needed to take care of ourselves is very different. But
Yeah,
I think it's really useful to, I always have my clients name what their daily disciplines are, so that even if they can't live them, they know how to get back on track quickly.
yeah,
And they usually include simple things like, you know, a certain amount of sleep that's ideal for them, drinking water throughout the day, getting out where they can, some sort of exercise, nature, walk, time with children, animals, moving, taking phone conversations and meetings where they can. And then some, very personal things like, it's really important for me to floss. I feel like I'm on my A game when I floss. Great, that's important to you. It's important, what's the book, Make Your Bed.
yeah,
Things
yeah.
like that really matter because we show ourselves, hey, I'm on my A game today. So that now I have capacity for all the million and one problems that are going to come at me, because that's what leadership is. A million and one problems that no one else can solve land on your desk,
Yeah.
and they're usually not have an answer. That's why they're on your desk. And your job is to just, what are we going to do to navigate this with no rule book? And your job is to figure it out.
Oh, That definitely resonates. One of the things I used to say to my boss all the time is, as a leader, one of my greatest skills was when I learned to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Because the one thing that was true, leadership's uncomfortable. You're going to get all
Yeah.
the problems that you don't know the answers to, that nobody else knows the answers to, but that's why they're on your desk.
Yeah.
You're going to get people coming in who are messy human beings, whose emotions, doesn't matter what we say about leave your emotion at the door, neuroscientifically, your emotional brain responds 24 times faster. So the emotion's in the room before your logical brain tells you to keep it out. So
Yeah.
you're going to have
Have
to
you,
learn to deal with those.
sorry to interrupt you. Have you had clients say, gotcha, if, the people issues or their emotions could just go away, I could really do my job. And I'm like, no, 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 that is your job. The higher you go, it's just people and their emotions and their personal histories all come into the forefront.
Oh, Suzanne, that absolutely. I've had lots of them. And I was talking to a client the other month, might even have been the other year, and he was sat there and he was in a bad place, and he was like, "Oh, Kim, business is hard." And I was like, "Okay, well, talk to me, explain that to me." And he went, "Well, I've got colleagues, well, they're people, and I've got clients, people, and I've got business partners, people, and I've got the board, people." And I
More
said, even
people.
even regulators are people. I said, what you've got is a people problem. Every aspect of what you do in business, what you do as a leader, has a people element to it. And unless you were going to embrace that, unless you were going to go, people are amazing. They're messy, they're uncomfortable, they're complex, they need to be understood, they need to be given my time, they need to be given my energy to be able to help their way through. If that fills you with dread, don't lead.
Yeah.
Don't lead.
I had one client at the tail end of our coaching engagement say, there used to be a lot of jerks in my world. I don't know where they all went. And so there is a place where we make that decision, because I think it's a decision, is fall in love with the messy human puzzle in front of you and learn to love it, because then it's really exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
And it becomes its own unique challenges of like who's where, what gifts and talents do they have, where do they do their best work, who needs what communication from me, when, how. And then it's really just just like a sports coach with his players or her players. You're sending them out on the field and you're like, no, 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 come here, come here, come here, what the hell are you doing out there? This is how you can handle one. The other one is like, you're going to have a different communication
Yeah.
and a different message.
Oh,
But that's the game, and fall in love with the game of it and enjoy it.
Suzanne, I
Yeah.
love that. The analogy I often use is, you're directing a film and you've got your cast and you've assembled them. And if you've got the likes of so many people, but say Helen Mirren or Maggie Smith or Laurence Olivier, whoever, they've earned the right to play the part. You've brought them in because of their ability to bring it to
Their
life
talents,
and
yeah.
their talent. So don't micromanage them. Don't tell them how to do every element of it. Your job is to help them be the best they can be. And to your point, that is to understand, what do they need to bring their A game. What are the things you can do to set the scene for them to do their best work?
Yeah.
And when we look at it that way for our people and go, I brought you in, I cast you in this role, in this role, because I believed that you had the experience, you had the personality, you had the character to make it yours. So my job now is to give you the best stage within which
Yeah.
to play that part, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, Suzanne, I could literally chat to you all day. I can't believe where the time's gone. It's literally last time I looked up, it was like, oh, we've got ages to go. Now I'm like, nope, we've run out of time.
Yeah.
Before we go, you've shared so much, but before we go, can you share with the audience how they get in touch with you and who do you help?
Sure. I work with just a handful of CEOs every year. Best way to, but having said that, over the last 3 years, I created a whole bunch of resources to reach the masses. There's so many people I can't reach and work with directly. And so if they go to SuzanneBiro.com, you'll see a link to my new book, my podcast. I have an app, a blog, all kinds of resources that are meant to serve you well.
Amazing. And for anybody that didn't write that down or is uncertain of the spellings, please just check the show notes below because all of the ways to connect with Susanne will be right there. And I advise you all to take her up on that offer. Susanne, it's been an absolute joy. You've shared such insight and such actionable advice for people out there to be able to recognize where they might be and to think about how they might find a path through that. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's been an absolute joy. And to everybody listening and watching, I hope you found today's episode to be as insightful, inspiring, thought provoking, and creativity sparking as I have. And until next time, take care.